Startups get the party, startups get the party started. Startups get the party, startups get the party started. You want tech and tacos, tacos and tech, you know we got it, eh? Startups get the party, startups get the party started. Startups get the party, startups get the party started. Startups get the party, startups get the party started. You want tech and tacos, tacos and tech, you know we got it, eh?
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Tacos and Tech podcast by Rice and Tide Partners. I'm your host, Neal Bloom, and I'm thrilled to have on a longtime friend here in the ecosystem, a co-investor, a co-contributor, co-collaborator of all things startups in the San Diego ecosystem, Rose Bowlus, founder of Rose Bowlus Law. Hey, Rose, thanks for being on the pod.
Hey, Neal. Great to be here.
It is great to have you here. We've obviously go way back, doing lots of things in the community, and we're doing even more things now, which I'm excited about, and we're going to talk about. I think a lot of people know you for a lot of different things in the community. Funder, startup supporter in all ways whatsoever, and investor, and legal expert, fintech expert, all things. So we're going to dive into your background a little bit to get to know what all went into that and how you got to where you be today. But thanks again for being on the pod.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, I've been in San Diego almost 18 years now, so lots to talk about.
Yeah, where does it all start for you? Where did you actually grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in the Bay Area, San Mateo County, small town by the airport called San Bruno. For Bay Area folks listening in, I grew up in the fog. There's going to be some giggles, I'm sure, over towards Skyline College. So if you've been to the Bay Area, the weather out there is iffy, especially if you're between the peninsula and downtown. So naturally, I find myself in sunny weather now. Yeah. And so, so I went to school in the Bay Area, attended UC Berkeley for college. I was a finance and accounting major. After college, I was like, what am I going to do? Like every other 18-year-old asks themselves. So I decided to work for a year. Unlike most of my other peers who went on to graduate school, I was actually at the Haas School of Business. So that was very entertaining. But I decided to just go out into the workforce, and I worked for a company called Franklin Templeton, which was out in San Mateo, which still is. It's a mutual fund company, and I learned about the 40 Act and mutual funds and exchange traded funds and all things like that. And then I decided to go to law school at night for 4 years and have lots of fun doing it. Monday through Thursday, 6 to 9 p.m. for 4 years was really actually an enjoyable effort for me because I knew I wanted to become an attorney, but very busy schedule. So I didn't really have a life. And then after law school, I decided to work again for a little bit, and I became in-house counsel for various financial institutions. Let's see, Wells Fargo, PNC Bank, Wachovia, that became Wells Fargo. And then the financial crisis hit, and I found myself asking, am I going to continue on in my role at these banks when they're falling apart? So took my skill set with me, went on interviews, and found myself in the energy industry, where I was recruited over to Sempra Energy, 2009. Was there for about 10 years, doing a lot of the work that I did in the banks, but for an energy company, which was capital markets, derivatives, different asset classes being the underlying, so securities, commodities, foreign exchange, credit, interest rates, things like that. So I was a derivatives generalist. Did that for, like I said, until 2019. And then I started Rose Bowlus Law as a sole practitioner,
Oh,
and did that for 4.5 years and used all my experience at the institutional level and brought it to a small firm boutique all myself, until 2023 when I formed Rose Bowlus Law APC. And then fast forward to today, Neal, we are about 8 lawyers strong, focusing in three main areas: securities, commodities, and financial services, and do all things corporate within those realms. And then some side experience that I bring to the firm is capital markets, trading, and Web3 legal services as well. So that's always fun.
wow. What a background. Um, let's go way back to the Franklin Templeton days. Or what
Yeah,
was it just Franklin then? Or was it Franklin Templeton?
it was Franklin Templeton
Okay.
Group.
Okay.
Yeah, and there was the Franklin side of the world and then the Templeton International side of the world.
Yep.
And I actually did a rotation through the company. I did the management training program. So I was both in like fund management, and I was in marketing and
Hmm.
compliance and all these fun areas. It gave me a real good visibility as to how a fund is created, run, and maintained in compliance, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But then my eyes got wide open when I thought, oh, there are hedge funds out there and other types of structures that don't need to comply with all of this stuff because they fall under exemptions and such. So that was very eye-opening at the time.
Ah, interesting. And so there's a few routes here in San Diego. Franklin Templeton at one point hosted the Evo Nexus FinTech Incubator, I think, during COVID, actually. So
Right.
local incubator had a whole bunch of FinTech companies at headquartered at the San Mateo office, I think, which was kind of cool
Very
to
cool.
see. I know many years after you were there, but still cool to see some
Yeah.
roots. And then there's the defense tech angle that they've got a defense tech fund that I think some people are based in San Diego related to Franklin Templeton. Anyway, just some random facts that I always have. But it sounds like, did they push you to do law school by night, or where did that idea come from of
No,
doing both?
no. So I
Why
knew,
into legal?
yeah, I knew I wanted to go to law school eventually, but it was
Ah,
very expensive. And I thought, well, let me work for a year and save up and see what I can do. And so the night route was just the best route for me. All those companies that I worked for, especially Wells Fargo, which came after Franklin. I actually went to law school at night and sat on a trading desk. So that's where I learned the derivative side of my legal practice. Started with the rates desk and then created an equity derivatives desk, and just wandered into other asset classes, which was really cool because back then, as a derivatives lawyer, you can be a generalist. ISDA was very in favor of that. Today, there are just so many nuances in each of those asset classes and the derivatives that are in those markets that you just can't just be a generalist anymore, which is why I veered towards working in the energy industry. But I did do, rates and equity derivatives for a while. That gave me a lot of my fundamentals in the security space.
mhm.
Worked with corporate and outside counsel and on very large deals, which gave me the confidence to deal with large transactions.
Yeah.
Um, and and being in house with very senior, intelligent, entrepreneurial lawyers gave me the ability to know what the C-suite expects from their counsel. So
Mhm.
it helps with managing clients and understanding that what's important, what's not. So no over lawyering at RBL.
Yeah, for sure. The Sempra angle is really interesting as well. And in fact, maybe you can educate me about this. I feel like most of the people I have met who were former Sempra mostly are on the financial side, like seem to be traders or investors, Is that Sempra's more general business as opposed to the SDG&E operator utility kind of piece?
Yeah, so my story is a little different from from the wholesale trading
Mm,
probably exposure that you've had. I started with Sempra supporting their retail energy trading unit, which is more state focused. So you're probably more familiar with like wholesale trading with big banks and like Dodd-Frank and all of that stuff. At the retail level, the unit that rolled up to the parent company at one point was in competition with the utilities that offered tariff pricing structures. The group that I supported was their ideal client were CNI customers, commercial industrial customers, who can contract out of the tariff rate and to transactions with deregulated entities that were licensed to sell products in competition with utility in open or deregulated states. So the unit that one of the units that I supported, and that probably the bread and butter of my stay at Sempra, uh, sold financial products to and physical products in certain respects to CNI customers for very great pricing, simply because they were, especially in California, allowed to via direct access. So there's a lot of specialized terminology and like compliance matters that needed to be managed at the unit that I was supporting in order to make this happen, including licensing. So got good visibility on the trading world, but at the retail level, which was state regulated, not federal, although FERC and CFTC always had oversight over some of the other bigger issues that can happen in the trading space.
mm, very interesting. And then the crypto world, like how did that come to be? It's,
Well,
a lot
now
of
you're fast forwarding to probably within the last couple of years.
okay.
So I have a variety of, well, I shouldn't say I should say the firm has a variety of clients that are dabbling. I wouldn't say dabbling, but they're market participants somehow, whether in the
Mm,
wholesale or retail markets. And I'm going to just use energy or commodities for purposes of our conversation, which everyone in the Web3 space who's trading believes that commodity be the better designation than a security. So the Web3 exposure to the practice or what I'm doing came via some, I guess you could say, in a secondment from my firm over to a big institution called Anchorage Digital. So they have always had ambitions and are probably going to be doing all sorts of things in the Web3 space, but including providing hedging products or financial products to their clientele, to their custody clients that hold digital assets. And in certain respects, there's only a few that are really like, quote, understood and safe to trade, if you will. But my skill set was, easily transferred to, say, traders, not just a custodian, but say traders. And so now I'm outside general counsel for a company called Enhanced Digital Group, which is out of New York. And they are specifically focusing on derivative products for high net worth individuals, entities, minors, whomever's in the space that has a high concentration of digital assets such as Bitcoin or Ethereum, and we are kind of in the space now that's kind of evolving. Actually, there's the Genius Act and the Clarity Act and all of these other legislations are just right hot off the press. So as you can imagine, being counsel in the space with the capital markets background and trading background that I have has to be extra cognizant of what we used to do versus what we can do, what we will do in the future. So that's kind of my exposure in the Web3 space right now through those two entities. But I have various other smaller players that I I help, but as you know, just still not. The industry is still in its infancy as it relates to regulations.
Totally. It, I mean, I feel like we have, let's just pull the thread on that, and just
Yeah.
like where things have gone, because it feels like fintech technology for financial blank has always been around and has kind of always been a leading edge for a lot of other technologies, right? Like
Yes.
Wall Street, lives on time and the quicker and data. And the quicker you have all that, the better edge you have, right? So theoretically,
Right.
they're investing in areas where you get quicker and up-to-date tech, if you will. Is that true? You
Mhm.
think is that why maybe fintech is some pulled along some innovation always at the front edge?
Yeah. So I feel as though with AI in the mix now, I feel like what we once believed to be the latest and greatest technology, whether it's in fintech or anything else, seems to be evolving so rapidly that if one startup or early stage company believe it has a moat or something, it could be recreated in seconds through an agent or something like that. So it's hard, it's just moving so rapidly. So, it really then becomes, is your tech or fintech or whatever it is that people are relying, is it going to be obsolete? Like how long and how much value is it going to bring you in order to make an investment into that?
Yeah.
So, just as an investor, which we haven't talked about yet, but when I do due diligence on some of these fintechs or newer companies that are looking to improve operations or improve certain things, companies, are they going to stay ahead of the game, right? Or is a bigger player going to eat them up?
Totally. I mean, that's true for all tech and anything
Right.
software these days. But I think there's some staying power in fintech because of like the moat that exists in legislation, right? Like actually
Right.
getting, depends on what branch of fintech, first of all. We're talking really
That's true.
high level,
I'm generally talking.
generally, uh,
Absolutely.
betting is a whole nother world
Oh my
compared
gosh.
to, but, but the
Yes.
regulation is a moat and is, also,
Mm.
I would say makes fintech sometimes lag as well too. Like, right? Like the
Yeah.
crypto world, while
Yes.
it's been always forward thinking, has not been able to have a foothold in the Americas, in the United States, because of the lack of regulation, right? Whereas other areas like bank tech has been over-regulated and
Right.
therefore,
Right.
also not enough innovation to the payment rails and that kind of stuff too. Like, what's your kind of take on that? Just the regulation versus innovation
Yeah.
in the United States.
Sure. So I feel like we're way behind our international counterparts. That goes without saying. I feel like a lot of people in Washington or just people who are in TradFi or traditional finance roles, they're not ready, or they're not when you're not comfortable with understanding how a certain industry works, say Web3, or when I say cryptocurrency, or even like some of these newer tokenization, right, of things, right, then people get fearful and can find all sorts of reasons why it can't work, when in reality the evolution and the innovation, it's nothing's going to stop it. I guess what I'm trying to say is, with new blood coming into some of these roles in Washington, or seeing that these companies are functioning better, more efficient, greater revenues coming in, I think it's a normal pushback that eventually is going to wean off.
Hmm.
So in the interim, there's the pain and suffering of having to follow legislation, and have all of these, the older crowd, if you will, try to make sense of everything, when the newer crowd really understands the fundamentals. And once they come into office, or they take leadership roles, and then find value for mainstream America, it will be rolled out. Especially a digital, dollar, or just USDC, for example, right? Payment. stable coins and the whole Genius Act and how that's going to transform the banking world, right? So it's just coming. And so better equip yourself with knowledge and relevance in your company rather than to fight it, because I don't think it's gonna away anytime soon. It's too big not to succeed, if you will.
Yeah,
And
man.
I don't know if that answers your question, but that just kind of
I think
gives you
so.
some
Well, good on you for staying
yeah,
ahead of it like that, because like you
yeah,
said, it is coming, and it gives you a big edge, I would say.
yeah,
On the same with the legal tech side, right? Being a lawyer,
yeah,
just having
yes,
leaning into the optimizations that have come, like what have you seen? Less regulated space to just have, in a
yep.
sense, SaaS applied to your industry, right? As opposed to fintech changing financial vehicles and that kind of stuff. Like what's your take on legal tech and its innovation over the years?
Yeah, that's a great question and a one near and dear to my heart.
Mm.
I actually I created a small angel investing group called Angels in the Law during the pandemic. I thought it was fun to get other lawyers together to talk about what legal tech was doing to our industry, to our clients, to our, work, and been following it along ever since. So it's been a good 5, 6 years. And so Angels in the Law was born to educate lawyers who are investors and who want to stay abreast of the changes in legal services. And what we've observed is that is a unstoppable train that is also coming and has arrived, and the adoption has not been so popular with attorneys, but with customers and clients and sales and biz dev, and so other functions in companies that want to get things done but don't want perfection have opted to use a lot of these tools. um, General partners, private equity, just different parties that are really embracing legal tech more so than the attorneys. So if that's the case, then it seems to me that the lawyers are going to have to get on the bandwagon of incorporating these tools and these companies that include AI capabilities into their practice, and start showing clients value that maybe some of the bigger firms or some of these bigger companies show to their clients. And there are various companies that we've reviewed over time that have been growing before our eyes. I mean, everyone's heard of Harvey, of course, and even LegalZoom, good old LegalZoom, publicly traded, has really evolved through the years. Their offerings are incredible. Their output still questionable. Being a lawyer, I'm not going to lie, keeps us busy on the correction later side of things, but they've come a long way and they'll go a lot further. And the acquisitions in the space have been incredible. Lots of buying of smaller outfits into bigger outfits. So it's just a matter of time again that some of these names will be household names. And there will be more credibility as time passes, and lawyers will have to bring value to their clients by bringing their clients to these platforms, because doing things the old fashioned way are going to be cost prohibitive. So there are my thoughts on that. Let
Mhm.
me know if you want me to talk about any particular legal tech, because I've seen everything from, e-discovery, or predict case prediction, software or AI, to uh, gosh, software that can file a claim for you. You just tell them in vibe coding in legal tech in plain English, it'll write up a complaint for you right away. So there's all sorts of stuff out there, and just not hugely widely adopted yet, because people do still appreciate human lawyers.
That's true. Yeah, and speaking to one of our San Diego darlings, Trust and Will, which sits on a bit of both the legal tech and financial estate planning tech, which has had to ride the wave of um, e-notary being approved state by state just so that they could have a
Right.
truly digital platform, right? There again, is regulation affecting both legal tech and fintech in that regard. Just so that someone could write a basic will around that as well too. Where do you, so we can dive into the investment piece a little bit. One, I would love to know like when you decided to make your first investment, and
Oh
we can,
yeah.
if you can share the name, great. If not, whatever, it's okay. But where is there room? Like where are the areas you're leaning into that's saying like this is the areas of legal tech that are exciting and new
Okay.
versus tried a ton of times before?
Yeah. So, gosh, I would say pre-pandemic, when I was in house, investing or the entrepreneurial scene was not really where I was. I was more sitting on nonprofit boards and doing more community things, but not really with the startup ecosystem. It wasn't until, the pandemic that got my eyes open to all of the great smaller companies that were kind of happening and growing within the San Diego community. Where then I started learning about angel investing. I started with, I would think, San Diego Angel Conference. And kind of that was that was the more of the serious investing that I took place. Don't know if your audience knows about San Diego Angel Conference, but it is a beginners angel group, if you will, with various investors who are looking to learn about how to invest, due diligence, and such. And they run every year, and they have some great companies. So that's sort of the more serious investing that's got me started. I want to say 6 years ago or so, when I participated my first time, and I've been in the fund ever since. I participate with various angel groups. I'm proud to say that Interlock Capital was also a fund that I partook in, or it was LP in. So thank you, Neal, for that opportunity. And then various other angel groups. Stella with Sylvia Ma, I've co-invested with her. And sheesh, new fund, looking to be a serious investor with them this year, by the end of the year, a personal goal of mine. Yeah, so various emerging funds and ecosystem builders that really understand companies, such as yourself and others around me who I trust. And I know that because they've experienced things themselves, they bring lots of insight and value to me understanding how my money could be best invested. So, as it relates to legal tech, Angels in the Law has, while we're an angel network, we are very grassroots. Many of us have decided to invest individually in certain legal tech companies. One in particular that I served as an advisor for was Advocat.ai, who was or what was a winner at SDAC. I think it was SDAC 2 or 3. So Pradnya, still around, doing great. Hoping she gets sold sometime soon. And then, well, the company rather. And then various other legal tech platforms that are growing and I'm watching. But through the growing and the watching, I've come to learn about others that are changing other tangential areas to legal. So, for example, a portfolio company of yours called Lend API, which helps companies create creative lending structures and other resourceful, borrowing or financing structures, helped LawFi come to pass. And LawFi is a company out of Florida, I believe, who is looking to help attorneys and law firms help finance some of their clients, and which is so very helpful because, as you know, retainers can be very large. And so these creative mechanisms that are out there are very investable companies. They're very real, they're revenue generating, they're very promising. And so any opportunities to invest in these types of companies, while near and dear to legal tech, are also other opportunities that I've looked into. So that'll give you a taste of kind of what I've done. And I am pretty picky. Most lawyers are, as it relates to where their money goes. But Angels in the Law has really, opened many of our members' eyes to opportunities that they wouldn't have otherwise known about had they been for the group with the group. And so, there are legal tech companies out there that have gotten funding from our members. So proud to say that, yay, we did good.
I love it. Well, I mean, I think it makes sense for being kind of an entrepreneurial law firm, right? In that regard, that you would take risks here and there, but
Yeah.
and not risks, well, calculated risks. And it makes total sense that you do it with domain expertise in mind, right? Like invest in areas you know and invest in areas, you hope will manifest and make your job easier too. And so that makes total sense. I love the Lend API mention for a variety of reasons. One, we love all of our portfolio companies, but the
Right.
fact that founder Tim and Sam, I actually introduced the two co-founders during COVID when they were at totally different companies. They
Huh.
then teamed up for Lend API, and Tim signed up as an LP in Interlock Fund One as well too. And then we got to fund it within Interlock One, which is a very Interlock and Rising Tide partner story, right? Like
Yeah.
investing into the community where, one wins, we all win in that regard. And of course, you'd go in and be able to help them as well too. You mentioned Lawfire, another Steve Highhill, another
Mhm.
connection through Tim at Lend API that we got to know as well. So yeah, just a great, great world in that regard. Um, and love that you're involved there. I know you've helped a number of interlock companies, for a variety of fintech and legal tech kind of stuff as well too. And then San Angel Conference. This was last year, 2025 was the first year I participated personally, actually, into it. I think I emceed 2 years ago, like the final go 2023, which was super fun. And this year I was so compelled by the final pitches. But this coming year, I'm going to tease it to just this audience. You might see a bit more of me in the stack world, either as fund manager, education, curriculum lead, because I agree, it is a great intro course to what is angel investing, which is huge in terms of unlocking people's ability to participate in the early stage funding world. Because if you're better educated, you'll take better calculated risks, and you won't take these big swings on one company and then you're out of the game for 10 years, which we see a lot of in angel investors, right? They fall in love with one founder, put 100K in, they're like, all right, just waiting for my return and then I'll do my next deal. And it's like that's not that's not how angel investing works, right? It's an
Right.
indexing game where you learn about the people and learn about yourself as a picker of people, right? And
Right. Absolutely.
so I've loved that that was your entryway into there, and you have broadened your area from not just participating, but then leading your own syndicate group now as well too. What have you learned from that, like leading your own syndicate group compared to just
Yeah.
investing alongside others?
I think it's a team effort. I honestly have to say that the input that I get from the various Angels in the Law members is so invaluable. Why? Because they may be in a different area of the law that I'm not in, or they've invested themselves maybe the same amount of time or longer, where they are um, their due diligence techniques may be different. And what's interesting is we may be focused on legal tech, but we're talking about all sorts of deals. So, some of us are real estate investors. And so, I learned of a couple deals through various members and am looking into one now. So, it really, it opens up all sorts of opportunities when you're talking about, companies. And I honestly believe that if you don't invest, right? They say for every 40 or 20, I forget what the number is, Neil, and maybe but like every 40 investments you make, one's going to hit big and it's going to return, right? Your investment maybe 10, 15x. lucky 20, that'll basically cover all the investments you've made. So if you're consistent, right? Everything is consistency, and discipline in life that yields results. And so likewise in angel investing, putting all your eggs in one basket probably isn't advisable. But if you're going to um, be investing, stay consistent with it, hang out with the right people who know a thing or two about the industry you're investing in, and then help the companies that you're investing in. So, um, staying on the sidelines doesn't help your investment. So, for every company that I've invested in, I've tried to make connections for them. I've tried to do all that I can. And being a Techstars mentor, for example, one of the things they teach you as a mentor is it's a give first mentality. And like that, in all of the things that I do, especially as an investor, have to give, have to help, have to be a part of the circles of resources for these founders that are facing so many different challenges. Investors who are resources are the best investors. So just trying to live up to that standard.
It's a huge value add that I think you and I understand. Not every founder actually values that or knows to value that. How do you like show that?
Yeah, so it's a culture that I've adopted for myself personally. So I do have a give first mentality in all that I do, and I feel like counting your blessings certainly goes a long way because somehow it all seems to work out when you give, the universe gives back. So it starts at my firm. It starts with the companies that I invest in, and it's always communicating to them that aside from what I'm here to do, mentor, give legal advice, whatever, um, please, I'm going to open up my network to you to the extent it makes sense. So let's talk about what it is that you need. Like, let's talk about what your obstacles are and what it is. So I got to know that you're clear on what your ask is and what you want. And then when you announce that to the world, it's almost inevitable that it's going to come your way. But you got to be clear. And so communicating with those that I want to help and getting them to very clear spot on what their ask is definitely helps me help them.
I mean, uh,
Yeah.
it's give first, which is very San Diego. I've noticed not every
Yeah.
community has that culture in the startup ecosystem, first of all. Uh, it is also though within the Techstars world, like it is global somehow within a certain networks of startups. So I find that all very interesting that the right people find their way to that kind of culture. And
Yeah.
then, you know, giving goes far, but when you're actually on the cap table, like you're pretty incentivized to do those things, working when the founder is sleeping to a certain regard, right? And making connections and intros and those kinds of areas as well too. I know that your syndicate does that within areas, legal within the law, connecting to other customers and that part. Where do you find that you have to kind of educate the founder on what to expect from an investor? And beyond writing the check.
So, interesting that you should bring up this subject. The Women's Venture Summit's coming up here at the end of September, and I am going to be co-leading a seminar, I guess a mini seminar within the summit on due diligence. And I feel like your question really goes towards, what is some of the due diligence points that you should be aware of, both as a founder and investor? Like what's important in your ask and what's important in what you're providing. And so I think when it comes to on the investing side of things, and if I'm answering your question right, I think if you stay on the sidelines as an investor and you're not opening up your network or you're not helping the founder get clear on what they need, you're doing your investment a disservice, right? Number one, but number two, um, you then, believe it or not, form a reputation among founders because they talk. So so, founders gloat about awesome investors all day long. They're like, "Hey, this really great. I'm glad they're on my cap table. I'm glad they're bringing value. I'm glad they're introducing. I'm glad they're spending time." And they're not dead weight, if you will, just waiting around because, it's not really doing the company service. But on the other side, as a founder, this is one of the things I just don't see enough of is the founder being 100% clear on what they need because they don't know what's wrong, why they're not being able to fundraise, why they're not getting the connections, why they're not. And so, you know, they they take polls for their market, right, for their product, but they don't take polls on what sort of things their audience want to hear about as it relates to their startup, right, their product, their market, whatever. So discovery is always important in the entire startup journey. And that's constantly conversing, talking to people about like what do you like about us? What don't you like about us? Have you tried our product? Have you tried our platform? What are you seeing? And there's just not enough of that going around. And founders are head down, but they need to be heads up to be aware of, in order to get to that next level. I think that's super important on their part. So I kind of showed two sides of the coin there. I don't know if I addressed your question, but those are two very important things I'd like to see more from founders and funders. And
I
I'll be
love it.
talking more about it at the Women's Venture Summit.
Oh, awesome. Great plug there for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think in San Diego specifically, we haven't really had the luxury of, one too many domain specific angel investors, first of all. So founders just scrambled for any local money they could without
Right.
discerning on what makes a good investor, right? They're like, I just need capital to just get going. But over time, realized not all money is created equally, right? Some actually comes with a lot of anchors, and others come with huge balloons that actually like lift you up, right? And
Right.
and therefore it's also put some good pressure on local investors to differentiate and prove themselves, right? Because not all capital is equal. So I think you drive a great point. I'm so excited you're going to be talking about that further from both ends, and we will link to Women's Venture Summit here in the show notes here as well. So
Awesome.
awesome. Uh, First of all, something else very San Diego is our taco scene, which runs the full gamut from breakfast, early morning tacos to late at night, 2 a.m. tacos to, south of the border tacos. Rose, you and I have never had tacos together, but we've had many other meals and drinks. Where do you go for your taco fix?
Oh my. I was dreading this question. So I'm in North County. I don't know if your listeners know or you're gonna tell everyone, but being in North County, I just feel like we're just giving a big disservice on our taco places. I should say before you get to Escondido, right? So but if I need a taco and I know what I'm going to be getting, right? Playing it safe. Islands is really good. It's fine food, right? So, I'm not embarrassed to say it. I've got a growing family. So, so I'd probably go there. I forget the name of them. One of them is pretty spicy, but it's good. It's good stuff. So, I'm gonna be mainstream on you here.
I like it. It's a controversial pick. Islands is known for its fine burgers and drinks, yet you have found the very San Diego thing about it, which I love. By the way, Islands, Carlsbad based company, even though I think it's national or at least statewide. I went to them all over the state for good sit down burgers, and I think their endless fries is what it's like definitely known for.
Mhm.
But yet you go for the tried and true San Diego local taco there. I appreciate it. I love it.
I didn't say on the border. How it
I
is.
also I
Cliche.
also love adding islands to the taco database, which has never been mentioned before here
Ooh,
on the
yeah.
pod as well too. So looks like we need a little meetup at Islands for tacos and
Okay.
bowls there, which I think is a unique thing as well. Rose, this has been so fun to sit down with you. I know we will continue to collaborate on a daily basis and probably have something to text you about right after this. But thank you for what you do for the community. You give, and then you help. And it's very much recognizable in our startup community. And like you said, it hasn't been that long you're doing it, but you've had a very quick impact in the startup world. So thank you. And I know you're only beginning here because we didn't even talk about your expansion to the Bay Area and
Right.
other states. So we'll just do a part two down the road on the Rose Bowlus empire that is growing.
Thanks, Neil. I really had a great time talking with you today.
Thanks, Chris. Talk to you soon.
Tacos and tech is on smash for the green guacamole. Keep accountants counting beans. Contador cuentan frijoles. Founders trying to raise some queso. La vida San Diego. School of rappy, rapping fire. Tortillas round jalapenos. In these modern times of craft beer and coffee, my coding yoga posse. Fold the body, origami. We be surfing Coronado. Eating tacos el gordo. The taco stand in puesto. Lucha libre and sombrero. Gotta shout out Tecos Daniels by the ocean. Watch the sunset. La Jolla shores. Entrepreneurs trying to get funded. When San Diego Startup Week is popping in the summer. Oceanside to Tijuana. SD be full of hustlers. From couch surfing to penthouses right on the beach. Tech leaders who believe stars are within reach. We interviewing founders who be shooting for the moon. Hashtag SD Tecos with your host Neal Bloom. Come on. Startups get the party. Startups get the party started. Startups get the party. Startups get the party started. Startups get the party. Startups get the party started. You want tech and tacos, tacos and tech. You know we got it. Hey. Startups get the party. Startups get the